DJ Lost and Found. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Yeah, man. So you're on HopeJamz radio show, bro. Like you've never been on my show before, and we've
No,
never spoken before. So this
nah.
is interesting, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good, man. Dealing with a little bit of COVID after effects, but uh, I'm not gonna. I like to soldier through. You know what I mean? So, but overall, I'm well, man. No complaints. Still working, still doing music. I'm really excited for a lot of the stuff that's coming out. So I'm well.
Yeah, man. I mean, I always like to keep it real with thinking about how I know an artist and stuff like that. And to be honest, I think when I played your exclusive track on my show just
Hmm.
recently, which is as of right now, as we record this, it's
Right.
playing. But that was the first time I played your music, and I was trying to think back to when I kind of knew you before that, and I think I came across you in 2020. I think
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really don't know much about you, man. So like, can you give me like a kind of like a background or an introduction to who is DJ Lost and Found?
Yeah, so man, DJ Lost and Found, I am somebody who is overall, I'm a servant. It just may look different, right? So overall, DJ Lost and Found, I've been given the moniker, the DJ Khaled of CHH, um, where what I do is I curate records, I put records together, I bring all of the elements of the record together into completion. So that means bringing the artists together, bringing the production, maybe the concept and the direction. Um, and then once the song is actually done, even just pushing it out independently. I'm doing all this independent. Usually you'd have a label doing all this stuff, but I'm doing it myself, and really is to be a blessing to the body, be a blessing to my brothers and sisters who are out here, who are artists, who are indie usually, don't have the it might be the knowledge or the resources to push on their own, on their own. So I've kind of like taken up that moniker to do that. So that's like one aspect that I do as far as the curation. I'm also a Christian DJ, a sound engineer, independent A&R. So I help artists kind of like uh, grow in their artistry and give them kind of like critiques as far as like what they can do, to get better. Most recently, I worked with Bumps INF from God Over Money, so on his latest EP. But yeah, that's pretty much as far as DJ Lost and Found on the professional tip. Personally, I am a husband, father of two, a follower of Jesus Christ, and just a brother to many.
Wow. So you are like obviously like I said, DJ Khaled. So you're the producer, the curator. So you're the one you're making your own tracks, and then you're finding artists who you think would be great to fit on those tracks, and then those artists are then either rapping or singing on them, right?
Yeah, so I would say making in a sense of not actually doing the physical production anymore. I did that back in the days. If you go back to like MySpace, uh, where I would be on MySpace, SoundClick, and I would reach out to artists and say, "Hey, I made this beat. I think you would be perfect for it." So that was kind of like the inception before what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Now being a father, being a husband, having a full time job, I don't have the freedom that I did when I was in college and in high school, doing production. Now I outsource, and much rather reach out to somebody else, pay them for the production. Now I own the production, give them royalties, of course, but I own the production, and I actually can expand my sound because, as a producer, many of us have a specific sound, and we kind of get caught into that. So, um, for me, it's easier now. I don't have to worry about making beats. I don't remember how to make beats anymore, and it's fine with me. I can just do some basic editing and stuff like that. But I'm more focused on sound engineering, not so much DJing as much anymore. But now the independent A&Ring and the curation is really what my focus is.
So in for the person who's trying to understand it in the most basic sense, then you're
Yeah.
taking a beat, for example, you're finding an artist who can go on the track, and you are you're not directly making it, but you are directing it, as in how you want it put together, and then you pay someone else to put it together, right?
Yeah. So what we do, what it's called really, if you want to get to the most basic term that people may understand, is like executive producing. Um, if you think of like a Quincy Jones, he's probably the most famous, person who's done this. But he'll have his hand on, it's like, or think of it like a project manager. This person has their hand on the entire project and they're guiding it along, but they're not actually the person doing the work per se, right? So I'm not actually doing the performance, um, but I do have my hands on the direction. So I may come up with a concept, maybe there's a concept, a love concept, that I come up with, and I'll bring that to an artist. And most of the time, I'll just trust the artist because I've reached out to them because I trust them already, and I'll trust them in what they come back with. And if we need to tweak along the way, we'll tweak. There are some artists where it's been perfect, and there's no tweaking needed, and they deliver just as I expected. Then sometimes there's people where I'm tweaking for months with them on, hey, let's get your verse, better in this area. Let's deliver it a little differently. Let's work on this hook, and how about you try it like this? Why don't you try your delivery like this instead of the way you did it, so it'll change
Yeah.
the feel of the record. So there's a lot of intricate, time that I put into it. Um, and I think that's the biggest thing is people don't know what I do. That's probably the biggest thing is because I'm in the background, and I actually prefer being in the background than forefront.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing, and that's why, being quite direct about it, I like to break it down so that it
Hmm.
is understandable of what you do and who you are, kind of thing.
Right,
And
right.
so how do you, when you produce on obviously the album we're going to talk about your new one, but
Mhm.
in general, then if when you make a record like that, is it then, how would you write it? Would it be like DJ Lost and Found, the track name, and then the featured artist like that?
Yeah, definitely with the featured artists. So what I do is not only do I want to make good music, but I want to do good business. That's just as important to me, to do good, godly business. Um, so what I do is, yeah, it'll be, I own the record. If you want to get into like the royalties aspect of that, I definitely own the record, but um, these artists are being paid. Like I don't say, hey, just jump on a record with me and we'll split the distro kid splits or something like that. Many artists work like that. My goal ultimately is to be a blessing to the body. So what I do is I take the sacrifice and actually pay people. With my last record, Caesura, the first one, there were 26 artists on there. All artists were paid. The artist was paid who made the cover art. The engineer that I worked with, through crafting each record, was paid. So everybody's getting paid. And yes, so I do have ownership because I have to keep ownership so I can actually legally, like, guide, like if anything were ever to happen, everything falls upon me and my business. Um, so I do take, yes, the leadership aspect, and the ownership aspect, and then also it wouldn't be smart, it wouldn't be wise to take money out of my family's mouths, um, and then not get anything in return for the investment. So the ownership is kind of like the return for investment, for me.
But in terms of actually writing it, like physically writing it out on, how you're going to write it,
Mhm.
it is in that way. So it'd be like DJ Lost and Found, the track
Yeah,
name, and then like the featured artist, and it's done like that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. And the short of it, yes, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Cool. Well, yeah, that's a really good thing to do, and like you said, like the godly side of it, so you can be a blessing to other people, and then like do that. But how did it work then on that first album you did? Like, were you able to get a return on the investment?
No,
Oh,
no, no. So the funny thing about music, man, is you kind of learn. Like I was, and we can get into this, a little later, but I was out of music for 11 years. Um, like I said, I started in production when I was 15, I believe. So I hit a point in 2009 where didn't have it financially. I didn't have a laptop to even produce anymore. So I kind of life kind of pulled me away from that, and I had to worry about just making it. And eventually I got married, then I had kids, and all of these things kind of pull your attention away from music. Even though I wanted to do music, I was very much focused for a large part of that those 11 years, um, just being a part of my local church body and being a sound engineer there. And I think really what happened was God was carving out, a lot of the issues in my own heart, and reshifting my focus. So now, what I said 11, well, now it would be 13 years later, but at the time in 2020, 11 years later, now he put me in a position where I was able financially to do this, right? I had the heart for indie artists because I had interned with, I'm not sure if you're aware, but a sister company to Rapzilla, the new H2O. I interned there, and that's where I really like fell in love with being a help to indie artists. I just noticed how many messages I would get, people saying, "Hey, I don't feel like I get heard. I don't think anybody's out there listening." And I'm just trying to encourage people, like, "Hey, you never know. People are actually listening to you, and people are actually tuned into these playlists. Even if you see that it only has 10 listeners, that those 10 listeners are real people who are listening." So yeah, it's all been in an effort to be an encouragement. And I think I took my story's a bit different than other people, but I think in the end, the Lord has had His way.
That's really cool, man. No, I mean, I don't know so much about your background at all. Then, I mean,
Mhm.
in regards to you being just a producer, had you ever dabbled in either singing or rapping as well? And was that ever a thing?
I was terrible. I was terrible. That was I've done it as a teenager. Just going in the booth. I remember one time I wrote a rap for a song, and me and my friends, and I happened to, I forget why we knew this person who owned a studio. But it was a nice studio, and we went in, we tried to record a song, and the engineer, he basically told us we sucked and laughed at us. And we did. We were terrible. So, that was definitely a wake-up call for me. Like, that's not my area. My area was always either sound or production. And this all for me started from production. So yeah, I'm not an artist. I don't try to be. I play my position. I think we have enough artists in the space. I'd love to hear more, but how many people do we have curating music like this? In the way that I'm doing it. So I think that this is a viable way to create music as well.
Well, I think that I think as a curator, though, I think you are an artist, aren't you? That is a form of art in the way that you put
Yeah,
it together.
it's true. It's true. Yeah, yeah.
Ah, man. So, how long have you been doing it altogether?
So I'm 35 now. 20 years. 20 years that I've been in music in different aspects. Yeah.
Wow. And where was were you always in Christ in the whole time of doing it?
So yes, I got saved when I was 12. Um, I've definitely backslid. Being 15, I was not, for one, I wasn't interested in being discipled. Um, I was very legalistic at the time. I felt like I was too mature to be around the other teenagers. Um, so yeah, I was not interested, for one, and then also backslidden. So at the time, I definitely was from about majorly 18, I would say 18 on to about 22, 23 were like pretty dark times for me. Being that I went to college and had the freedom to then do whatever I wanted. I didn't have the same covering that you have when you're, in your parents' house. So I was kind of like free to do whatever I wanted, and I definitely did. Um, so yeah, I've been in this for about 20 years now, but saved when I was 12. Really started producing when I was 15, just from being around my friends really, and them making beats. And I said, well, what is this? Let me give this a try.
And did you always go by DJ Lost and Found, or did you have other names?
No, originally my name was Jay Bueno. So you might be able to find some stuff out there as far as like production. Um, like on my SoundCloud, I do have one song that I've shared, I guess you could say, that was unreleased from my production days as Jay Bueno. Um, Actually, that was with an artist who, or I should say, a writing group. And one of the artists actually went on to win a Grammy with Kendrick Lamar as a background singer in one of his albums.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I've been out here for a while, man.
All right, man. Let's talk about your new project. But this is obviously number two to what the last title was to the other one. So
Yeah.
obviously I'm going to butcher it. So you tell me how to say it properly, man.
Caesura.
Wh-
Everybody gets it wrong, so it's all right. Caesura.
What does that mean?
So a caesura is basically a musical note. And what that is, it indicates that there's a break in the music coming to whoever the artist is, whoever's playing the instrument. And kind of how it relates to just like the English language at its most basic and fundamental point is it's an interruption. So when I talked about those 11 years of me not doing music, it was an interruption that I believe the Lord placed in my life so that I could reroute my affections and my goals. And I was no longer, trying to land placements with, or I should say land songs with an artist like a TI here in the States. And my affections then went to Christian hip hop, where now I'm focused on, believers. And before, not that it's necessarily wrong to work with unbelievers, but um, I had no interest in pleasing God with my music. Whereas now, that's a main goal, is to be pleasing to God. And I think that um, doing it in the aspect of being sacrificial, and then also doing it out of the love for my brothers and sisters is huge. And my hope is that that's pleasing to the Lord.
So why say 0 1 and then say 0 2? Like you really want to put a lot of intel on the break itself because obviously that was in the past. But why do a version 2 now? Why not give it a new name?
Yeah, so say 02. There is I'm still working on finalizing the name, so it's still very early. This album is not gonna come out until the summer 2022. So I'm still finalizing the full name, but the working name right now is Caesura 2 colon now of course my my mind goes blank, but crescendo. So if now you think about a crescendo, it's the intensifying of sound, right? It's the intensity of a song as it gets louder and louder. So now the way that I look at it is that my first album dropped, I had the break. And yes, that's behind, but now it's the intensifying after that break in sound, and after the music has already come out. So that's the goal, because the ultimate goal for me is to build a platform so that I can then help artists get seen, and then not only get seen, but especially those artists who want to share the gospel. I kind of just want to be the guy holding the platform, pushing them forward more. Because I'm not really, I don't see myself as a mouthpiece. Maybe I am, but I don't see myself as a mouthpiece. It's not an area that I'm necessarily comfortable with. So I'm trying to build that platform to give my brothers and sisters in Christ just that platform and that extra push.
And how are you finding artists to put these projects together? Is it so obviously like I say you're trying to find well you want to help out artists. So are you just looking for like the kind of the new artists and put them on there? Obviously you want to find the ones that have a decent sound, the right mentality, that they're obviously representing Jesus in the right way, I guess. But is it engineered more towards helping the newer artists, or is it just an overall thing of finding the artists that really care to like promote Jesus?
So the so the first album was geared strongly toward finding new artists or artists that I believe should have a larger platform and kind of like get looked over.
Yeah.
That was the first album. That was the intention on this album as well. It has not worked out that way. It has become because I have, and I'll share. I won't go into detail, but I've been able to work with SO from Lamp Mode. I've been able to work with Aaron Cole, and these are things that I didn't go in, expecting or wanting or was looking for. I really was looking for um, indie artists who fit the production, because the first thing that I do is I look for production. I don't look for artists first. I look for production, and then I
Yeah.
look for who do I think would fit to this production, to this beat. Um, so yeah, I gathered all the production, and even halfway through that, I kind of changed the entire sound of the album and went a different route. Um, more a more I want to say kind of like timeless hip hop route. Um, so you'll have your trap beats on there. I actually have a UK drill track on there. But I wanted like this timeless, almost like East Coast, because I'm from the East Coast of the states. New York is the last place that I lived for 10 years, New York City. So I kind of wanted this more East Coast sound. Um, but with other flavors as well. So yeah, the biggest thing is I look for fit. Um, do I want artists who speak about Christ? Yes, but I also, and there's the the age old argument of Christian rapper or a rapper that's Christian. I think both can coincide and can be pleasing to the Lord, in their own ways. The Christian rapper, explicitly Christian, they're gonna rap a specific type of way. And then there's other people who are Christians and they happen to be a rapper or an artist, and they're just making good art. And I see that just as pleasing to the Lord. I would believe it's just as pleasing to the Lord as somebody who is explicitly rapping about Christ.
And when you put in together any of these tracks, because obviously you are the, like you say, the executive producer,
Right.
um, do any of the artists when they come on, do you allow them to have um freedom to say, like for example, if I'd imagine if like you work with someone who's had more experience, and if they would say something like, could we change the beat, or could I change this? Do you allow them to kind of give that opinion, and do you listen to it then, or do you just say, look, I'm the executive producer, I just want you to just spit your bars, yeah?
um so yeah, I definitely like for the artist to have input. And I do value artist input if especially if they're on within the same pages as myself. If they understand the vision of what I'm trying to do for a particular song, I'm very likely to go with what they say, what they ask, if they feel really strongly. Because I don't want to be, an authoritarian and say, "Hey, this is my project. It has to be my way." Now, if I feel really strongly about like, hey, I don't think you're right in this area, then I might pull rank. But I've had in the past, I had a song with Jekka Soul and El Dewan here in the States, and Jekka Soul, she felt really strongly about her vocals on one section of her vocals. And where myself and my engineer, we pitched her vocals down, she really said, "Hey, I think we should pitch them up." I didn't agree, but I went with her. And now looking back, now I can't even remember the version with her vocals pitched down, because the vocals with her, or the version with her vocals pitched up, was perfect. And I even see the reactions that people have to that song now. So the song is Rising with Jekka Soul and El Dewan. So it really depends on the ask, really. Is it something that's reasonable? Most people don't. I haven't had most people say, "Hey, this beat is needs work." Um, I think on kind of multiple spectrums, I don't think that's always a comfortable conversation for people on one hand, as an artist, because I think a lot of artists say, hey, this is your project, we'll do things your way. I feel like that's kind of what I experience. Um, but I think also that, um, yeah, most people are just going to go with kind of what you ask, and they'll deliver what they're, what they believe they should be delivering. And if we have a disagreement, and I've had it even on this project, I've had disagreements. Um, they're usually not anything that's like I say life threatening, but nothing's life threatening with music. Um, but it's nothing that would really where I say, hey, I got to take this person off of the song. I haven't
Yeah.
had that happen. People have been pretty, for the most part, have been pretty respectful in that way.
Cool, man. So you said roughly summertime we're looking to drop it, right?
I'm sorry, you said what?
Is it going to be roughly summertime that you think about dropping it?
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm shooting for. But I don't want to put pressure on myself, so that's why I haven't like released a release date. I have a certain point that I want to hit as far as like finishing all of the music first. Originally, I wanted to finish actually by now, by February 1st. I wanted to have all of the album completely done, so I could just focus on the rollout as far as with the marketing and you know, especially with COVID hitting a lot of artists, which pushed back a lot of things. My mix engineers have gotten COVID and pushed, songs back to being done. Um, so yeah, I'm not at a point where I feel comfortable with saying it's definitely coming out summer 2022, but I believe as the ball gets rolling, that yeah, I think I definitely I think it will possibly, most likely, I should say, that's probably the, the easiest way to say it, is that it'll come out end of 20.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I mean, it's like because you've just released the first single off of it. I mean, it's coming out in February. I
Yeah,
know I got the exclusive on it, but
yeah.
so obviously you've already put that forward to release the first single off of it, but so you haven't actually finished the album as a whole yet, though.
No, no, actually, there are a lot of like skeletal drafts that I still have. I've finished about 9 songs. So, and then there are other songs that where I'm just looking for the right artist. And it's something new that I've experienced with this album as well. If I've had a lot of artists who said they're not interested in being a part. Um, or people have said they are interested in being a part, and then they don't actually show up, and you kind of have to chase them to be a part. So for artists like that, I've kind of had just said, you know what, I kind of dealt with that on the first album, and I literally was mixing and mastering up until like the last day before I had to get everything uploaded to like a DistroKid so it can hit Spotify, Apple Music, or whatever. Um, and this time, I'm not doing that. If artists are ready and they want to work, they work. But I can't wait. There are so many artists that you know um, could use the opportunity, that I can't wait for one artist and put
Yeah, man.
myself and push back my timeline because hey, you've been sitting on a song that I reached out to you about 2 months ago. You know,
100%. I
um,
mean, I was going to say there's a few things in that that's just a bit odd. I mean, first of all, like most people would, in general, they would just completely wrap up and finish an album or any project. And once
yeah,
it's finished, then you start planning the promotion of how you're going to put it out.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but for you, you've already jumped the gun. You're already pushing, singles off of it when you haven't even finished it. So
yeah,
obviously, by the time you get to the finishing it, you might be like ready to release it, or what like it could come down to that point, but hopefully it won't because you're just building on the promotion. Um,
yeah, yeah.
taking
And
on the other thing you said was the
go ahead.
just so I was saying about the artist being involved. I mean, it sounds weird, like especially from your point of view, like you said, like you want to build up the scene and you want to help them, and you're actually going to pay artists. Like,
Yeah,
why would any artist then want to turn that down? It makes no sense, you know.
it's a good question. I wish I had the answer. Uh, but and at the same time, I think that there are so many variables, that I try not to bog myself down with trying to figure out why, you know, um,
Yeah.
you know, if I reached out to somebody, why they never reached back out, or even, just a courtesy, hey, I'm not interested. Um, so there's so many different variables. I've had a lot of issues with this, like I said, on this project particularly. And I, uh, there are times when I might reach out a second time just to make sure. Like if I can tell, let's say if I DM somebody on Instagram, hey, maybe I'll reach out if I see that you saw the message but didn't answer. Because I can remember being, a father early on and seeing text messages from people and not answering it till, days later because I'm just in the mode of being a father and being a husband. So I try to make, show grace, and not think the worst, because a lot of times your mind can go straight to the
Yeah.
worst. Hey, this person is trying to play me. They, I don't have a huge name, and if it was Reach Records calling, they answer right away. So um excuse me. So yeah, I'm trying not to think the worst and just believe that, hey, people have lives outside of what I'm doing, and what I'm doing is important to me. It might not be important to someone else.
Yeah, I think that's definitely important to think that and have and give grace wherever possible. But at the same time, what you said before, which is, if you, especially if you've reached out to someone and they've gotten back to you, they said they want to be part of it, but then they're messing around with not giving you
Yeah,
the verse and stuff like that, then it just kind of shows you their real heart, like,
that's true.
'cause if you're a professional artist, especially if you've got a job on, you complete it. You make sure you
Right,
complete it. That's a respect. So
right,
yeah, I mean
right.
that shows your true heart or their true heart, yeah. And yeah, I mean truthfully, you shouldn't waste your time with it, should you? Really?
Not really, not really. But I think that a lot of, and I'm 35, man. I think a lot of people that I'm gonna end up reaching out to are in their young 20s. They're young, and can I think back to when I was 20, or in college, and even so, to speak on my past a little bit. um, if you I don't know if you're aware of Slip and Slide Records. This is a record label that's in Miami. Rick Ross came from that record label. Trick Daddy, Trina, who are very popular in the late 2000s in here in the States. Um, I almost placed a record with that record label for one of their artists, and if they had asked me for stems for, for the beat, which if people don't know, those are just basically each instrument on a beat laid out, um, the length of a song, so that then somebody can go in and an artist can come in and record their vocals over them. I had no idea how to, what's called, bounce the stems out, so that a professional record label would then be able to go in, the artists lay down their vocals, then mix and master the song and put it out professionally. So I remember being in that place where I was unprofessional. So I try to, like I said, I try to show grace. There are people who it's just, you have to move on. And especially I think with certain behaviors. For example, if you've taken my money and then you don't
Yeah.
uh, show anything, then I've got an issue. We've got an issue. Because now you've stolen, and I've had it happen, or I've had people take my content, like take a song and use it, and say that they were going to pay me to use it because that's basically a sync, what's called in music. Um, Sync placement, and then use it on their content and then never pay.
Well, you've
I've
had that happen within like
Within our
with
space, yeah, yeah, definitely,
crazy man.
definitely, yeah. I have someone who owes me $1,000 now. Um, the hope in my heart is, I'll reach out and be proactive a couple times, um, but eventually, people they uh, try to avoid you eventually. So the hope is that the Holy Spirit will convict, and
Yeah.
then I'll be able to win back that brother or that sister, um, through the Holy Spirit doing the work and not me. Um, and it's better than, like, my wife has, she's a little bit more rough than me, where she said, "Hey, I think we should go and, show up on this person's doorstep and address them, in that way." Where I'm like, it's not worth that, because then you build up a reputation in the space as some type of Suge Knight bully or whatever it may
Yeah.
be. And that's man, I'll let the Holy Spirit do it. And then if the person comes back, and I had somebody who did wrong by me in that on the first album, and they came back and they apologized, and that's a redemptive moment. Like, that's priceless, for somebody to come back and repent. That shows me larger character than the fall did, that they came back and repented. So but people, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with humans, they're gonna let you down.
Yeah, man.
Go
100%.
into that knowing that it's gonna happen.
Yeah, man. I think you got the right heart on it, man. I think that's the right mentality. But yeah, man, it's so sad to hear that that's happened within what we call the Christian scene. A lot of people, it really is sad, man. God,
It's business
gobsmacking to
either
hear it,
way.
to be honest. But anyway, man, I really pray this album is going to be good for you, and that everything I think can work out on it. I mean, like I said, I played that first track exclusive on my show, and it was rocking, man. So I
Thank you.
think you're gonna keep doing that. Obviously, you can keep sending me all those new singles as they come, and also we'll showcase the album when it eventually comes out as well. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah, you'll get the album once I get to the point where I'm pretty uh comfortable with sharing like the release date and all that. And I have a big surprise about the album that I'm ready to share, but I kind of want to hold on to that until it's time. But yeah, you'll get all the goodies. I have another song actually rolling out to DJs and media in about another 2 weeks. So yeah, you'll be hearing from me. You'll be hearing from me. I got a lot to share.
Yeah, man. Oh well, it's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure talking to you, getting to know you, and and learning about your album. I'll probably need to get another voice note to memorize the name, because I no doubt I'll butcher it again otherwise. But honestly, man, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. And
Hey, 70 times 7. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity, man.
yeah, man, we'll keep rolling out those tracks, man, because that's gonna be interesting. I really like the idea of what you're doing, to be honest. I mean,
Mhm.
helping out the scene, shining a light, and to be honest, whether or not it's the new artists or ones that are in it already, I mean, it's still helping out artists,
Right.
especially with the whole kind of format of how you're doing it. I really like the heart on that. So well done, man. Well done for doing that.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
All right, buddy. So that is it. Your first HopeJamz Radio Show interview is over, and it's been a blessing. So thank you so much, and I'll catch you another time.
All right. Peace out.